Dividing fractions. So we're going to work today on dividing fractions, and it's very similar to multiplying with fractions. There's a couple of big differences, but they're pretty easy to work through, so let's look and see. Dividing fractions, easy as pie, flip the second and multiply. So that just means what's going to happen is this. We're going to keep the first one. We're going to change the second one to multiplication, and we're going to flip the second one. So again, I'll say that again. Dividing fractions, easy as pie. Flip the second and multiply. So all we did was we changed the division symbol to a multiplication symbol, and we flipped the second fraction. And so then we can just multiply it all the way out. So this is going to be just like multiplication before. 2 times 4 is 8. 3 times 3 is 9. And that's our final answer. Same sort of problem here. 5/9 divided by 11/13. If we go ahead and we do that, it's going to be 5/9. Change it to multiplication and flip the second one. So now it's just 65 divided by 99. Actually, that's simplified, even those are really big numbers. So here's another one, 3/5 divided by 4/5. And what you'll notice this time is we're going to flip the second and multiply. But I can go ahead and cross cancel, which just simply means canceling before I multiply it out. If I wanted to multiply it out, I'd end up with 15 over 20. And then I divide both the top and bottom by 5, I'd end up with 3/4. But I can also go ahead and say, well, this is 1 times 5, this is 1 times 5. And then I'm left with that and that. Then it's 3 times 1, which is 3. And 1 times 4, which is 4. Which will give me the same answer. But one way I'm canceling beforehand, the other way I'm canceling afterwards. So I'm simplifying beforehand this way and after this way. So here's same sort of thing, 15/16 times 6 over 5. Again, if I cross cancel, I can go ahead and say, well, this is going to be 3 times 2. This one here is going to be 8 times 2. So I can get rid of the 2 there and the 2 there. This one here is going to be 3 times 5. This one here is going to be 5 times 1. So I can get rid of the 5 there and the 5 there. And so then all I'm left with multiplying it out is I'm left with now 3 times 3, which is 9, and 8 times 1, which is going to be 8. I've still got to simplify because 8 goes into 9 one time with 1/8 left over. Or I could do it the long way, which is going to be 15 times 6, which is going to be, let's see here, 15 times 6 is 90. And 16 times 5 is going to be 80. Then again, I'd simplify, and that would be 9 over 8, and then by dividing both the top and bottom by 10. Now here, 3/5 divided by 2. The rules of multiplication still apply. I've got to change that 2 to an improper fraction before I do any division or multiplication. So this is going to be 3/5 divided by 2 over 1. Which is the same as 3/5 times 1 over 2, which then I just multiply it out, it's going to be 3 over 10. And exactly the same thing here. When I divide 2 into 3/5, I know I'm going to end up with a fraction that's less than 1. That's just a good check to make sure you have the right answer. So here we go. Again, we've got to change both of these into improper fractions. Oops, made one mistake, need to fix that. Forgot we were working on division there for a second. So now this is going to be 3 times 2, which is 6, plus 1 more is going to be 7, so 7/2, divided by 1 times 3, which is 3, plus 1 more is going to be 4/3. Now I can rewrite it again. And keeping the steps is really important, because people tend to get mixed up otherwise. So now I'm left with that. I'm left with 21 over 8. 8 goes into 21 2 times, with 5 left over. And the same thing here. When I divide 1 into 3, I know I'm going to end up with a fraction that's bigger than 1. So this should be our last problem. This is going to be 21/4 divided by 56 plus one more 57/8. Flip them, it's going to be 21/4 times 8 over 57. Now I can't do those in my head very easily, but I can go ahead and realize a couple of things that are important here. This here, if I go ahead and choose this one here, we have 21/4. I know 4 and 8 share a factor, so it's going to be 4 times 1 here. It's going to be 4 times 2 here. And get rid of that, get rid of that. And then I can multiply it out. So it's going to be 42 over 57. Now that's still not simplified, and you might have said to yourself, what about these two numbers here? Both those numbers are divisible by 3, and so I could divide them both by 3, but if I didn't recognize that, at least I got a little bit smaller numbers. So when I divide the top and the bottom by 3, I end up with this being 14, and this being 19. So that's going to be my final answer, 14/19. So again, a few steps, again, just building on our facts about multiplication, and it should be fine. One thing to note also is you can always check your answer to see if it's right partially by estimating. And also you can say, okay, well, can I divide 7 into 5? Well, I can't divide 7 into 5. It's going to be smaller. So that's the reason why I end up with a fraction that's less than 1.